Welcome back, everybody, to the Deep Dive.
Yeah.
So today we're going to be diving into chapters 3 and 5 of The Professional Believer's Guide
Okay.
by Dr. Stephanie Fletcher-Lartey. Have you heard of this one?
I have, yeah. Those chapters in particular are super interesting. I mean, they really get at something that I think a lot of people struggle with,
Oh, yeah.
you know, how to integrate faith into the workplace.
Yeah, because it's like, Sunday morning it's one thing,
Right.
but then Monday morning rolls around.
Yeah.
What really stood out to me about this book is that Dr. Fletcher-Lartey, she's not just talking the talk.
Right.
She's walked the walk. She's
Right.
had this really long career in public health and worked internationally.
Yeah, and her whole point is that her faith has really been a source of strength for her.
Yeah, not a hindrance.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Not something that's held her back. And one of the things that makes this book so relatable, I think, is she uses a lot of her personal story.
Oh, yeah.
To kind of ground the advice that she's giving. Like in chapter 3, she talks about this divine visitation that she had when she was in college.
Oh, wow.
And it was this really powerful moment for her that completely changed her perspective.
So it's like one of those lightning bolt moments that just kind of
Yeah.
reshaped everything. I mean, has anything like that ever happened to you where something shifted your perspective on how you think about work and faith?
I think we all have those moments.
Mhm.
Maybe not quite as dramatic as a divine visitation.
Right. It doesn't have to be dramatic.
Right.
Just like an aha moment,
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
But those moments I feel like are so powerful.
They are, and she really uses that to build this idea of knowing who you are in Christ,
Okay.
which she says is kind of the bedrock of her approach.
So that's the inner strength, the inner foundation.
Right.
And then chapter 5 is like, okay, how do you take that foundation and actually act on it?
Yeah, how do you live it out? Right.
Exactly.
Not just on Sundays, but Monday through Friday when you're at work. And that's where this whole salt and light metaphor comes in.
Right.
It's such a great metaphor, and it's interesting how she unpacks it because she talks about salt not just as preserving goodness,
Uh-huh.
but also enhancing flavor.
Yeah.
So in a workplace context, that could mean standing up for what's right.
Right. So it's not just about being preachy.
Right. It's about having that inner strength
Yeah.
that then influences how you do your job.
And making the work environment more positive.
Exactly.
Yeah.
More joyful even.
And then light. That's less about words, I feel like, and more about actions that just illuminate the way for other people.
Yeah. And she emphasizes honest speech as part of being salt.
Okay.
Choosing your words carefully, even when it's difficult. But the light really shines through in your work ethic, your attitude, how you treat people.
So I want you listening to think about this. What's one small salt or light action you could take at work tomorrow? Even if nobody even knows it's faith motivated.
Yeah.
It could be like helping a colleague, choosing kindness, even just not gossiping,
Right. Those small things can really make a difference, and they ripple outwards.
Yeah.
And I think it goes back to that idea of knowing who you are in chapter 3. Dr. Fletcher-Lartey provides all these powerful affirmations.
Yeah.
And I see those as more than just, feel-good phrases. They're tools.
Yeah, I agree. They're more like tools.
Yeah, to remind you of your spiritual resources when things get tough at work.
Right.
And she calls them affirming who you are.
Okay, I like that.
And they're really meant to counter, that negative self-talk that we all face, especially in the workplace.
So let's dive into some of these, shall we?
Yeah.
The first one is, I am alive with Christ.
It's rooted in Colossians 2.13, this idea of being made new, forgiven. When work has you feeling defeated, remembering that fresh start can be really powerful.
So it's like having a reset button almost.
Yeah.
Spiritually speaking. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, next one. I am assured all things work together for good.
That's Romans 8.28. And it's a reminder that there's a bigger picture even when we can't see it. So, tough projects, difficult colleagues, trusting that God's working it out is key.
It's a tough one to live out sometimes, but
for sure.
but so important. This next affirmation kind of builds on that trust. I am safe, and the evil one cannot harm me.
Okay. And that's based on 1 John 5.18. It's about spiritual protection, Not that bad things won't happen, but that we have a source of strength to get through them.
It's reassuring in a world that can feel so chaotic sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
For sure. Okay, this one's a mouthful. I am blessed with all spiritual blessings in heavenly places in Christ Jesus.
Ephesians 1.3. It reminds us that blessings aren't just, material things. There's this whole other level of spiritual blessing that can really impact how we see our work, our purpose.
I love that shift in perspective.
Yeah.
Last one for now. I am the head and not the tail,
Now, this one's easy to misinterpret. It's from Deuteronomy 28.13. It's about God elevating his people. But Dr. Fletcher-Lartey is clear. It's not about ego or worldly ambition.
It's more about stepping into your God-given potential.
Right.
Right? Not letting yourself get walked on.
Exactly.
But also not being a tyrant.
Exactly. It's interesting how she connects these affirmations back to practical action. Like, how does I am the head change how you handle a demanding boss or a gossipy coworker?
Right. It's about that inner confidence then translating outward.
Yeah.
You mentioned earlier that Dr. Fletcher-Lartey uses a lot of stories to illustrate her points.
Oh, yeah. All the time. Like in chapter 5, when she's talking about being salt, she gives this example of being pressured to lie on a report.
Ew.
And she refused, even though it risked her job.
Yeah, talk about standing up for your values.
Right. And it actually worked out for her.
Did it really?
Yeah. Her boss actually respected her more for it, and she ended up getting promoted. Her point is that integrity sometimes costs, but the payoff is huge EE, not just ethically, but often professionally, too.
So it's not about being a doormat in the name of being nice. It's about that inner strength that she keeps coming back to.
Exactly. And remember, being salt isn't just about standing up for what's right. It's also about making things better. She talks about how being positive, even when others are griping, can shift the whole mood.
Yeah, I mean, think about your workplace. Is there a situation where you could be more salt, where your faith could help you bring something good to a tough situation?
It doesn't have to be this huge thing. Even a small act of kindness can be salty.
Okay, so what about light? Any memorable stories about light from chapter 5?
Yeah, she talks about this colleague who was always stressed, overworked, and Dr. Fletcher-Lartey started praying for her and also just being super helpful, taking on extra tasks without complaint.
So light was less about preaching, more about actions.
Exactly. And guess what? This colleague eventually asked her, "Why are you so different? What's your secret?" And it opened the door to talk about faith in a really natural way.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
It shows how living it out can be so much more impactful than just talking about it.
Yeah. And it goes back to those affirmations, that inner strength when you know who you are in Christ. It shines through.
Yeah. Before we run out of time, let's go back to those affirming who you are statements. We covered the first 5. What are the rest of them?
All right, so we left off with I am the head and not the tail. Next up is I am strong in the Lord and in the power of his might. That's from Ephesians 6:7. And it's a great reminder when you're feeling overwhelmed or inadequate at work. It's about tapping into a power source beyond ourselves, and that can be so crucial in those high-pressure situations.
Right. And it's not about our own strength. It's about his strength.
Okay.
What's next?
The next one is I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me.
Oh, yeah.
Philippians 4.13, that's a classic. It's not about boasting, but it's about, where your true strength comes from.
Love that one. Okay,
Right.
yes.
Greater is he that is in me than he that is in the world. From 1 John 4.4. This one's so powerful for dealing with negativity or opposition. It's a reminder that we're not alone in the fight.
Yeah. It's like having that spiritual backup,
Yeah,
knowing that you've got the ultimate power on your side.
exactly.
Okay.
And the last one in this list is I am more than a conqueror through him who loved us. Romans 8.37. And it speaks to overcoming challenges, not just surviving them, but actually thriving in spite of them.
Wow. That's a great note to end on. So we've covered a lot of ground here. The importance of knowing who you are in Christ.
Yeah.
The power of being salt and light. Practical tips, and even these inspiring affirmations. What does it all mean for you?
For me, it's a call to action. It's not enough to just read this book, nod along, and then,
Wow.
go back to business as usual. It's about taking these principles and actually integrating them into our daily lives, our work, our interactions with others.
Yeah, it's about bridging that gap between Sunday faith and Monday morning,
Exactly.
not compartmentalizing, but letting it flow into every area of our lives.
Exactly. And, it's not about being perfect. Dr. Fletcher-Lartey really emphasizes that we're all on a journey. We're going to mess up, we're going to face setbacks, but it's about that continual striving to align our faith with our work, to see our jobs as more than just a paycheck.
Yeah, finding that sense of purpose,
Right.
using your skills and talents to serve something bigger than yourself.
Absolutely. And maybe making a difference in the world around us in the process.
Beautifully said.
Yeah.
So for those of you listening, here's your challenge this week. Think about your work, your career, your calling. How can you better align your faith with what you do? How can you be more salt and light, more of who you are in Christ in the marketplace? It's a journey worth taking, and we'll be here to cheer you on. Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive.